Welcome to Sinister Cinema Reviews, where I am fucking pissed off. So we did a review for Grotesquerie a few days ago,
Yep.
and the audio is fucked. It's super echoey on my microphone, but not Kaylee's. So her audio is crisp and clean, and mine is super echoey. I tried everything I could to clean up the audio. It's unusable. It just is what it is. And I was, took a couple days off of the channel because I was so angry about it. We talked about it for so long. And then we sat down to record a Slasher Sunday. It'd been a while.
Yes.
And we had it cut out like early on. And we talked for like 30 plus minutes and missed out on way over half of it. And that was a kick to the teeth. And I always say this in these videos, but I think if it cuts out again during this one, I might just quit the channel forever because this stuff is so angering, a literal waste of time. So, yeah, Grotesquerie. Let's talk about it, shall we? And what a show to talk about when I'm angry already because I didn't like this show, and it was like, while intriguing, and we already talked about it in full detail,
We did.
but to reiterate here, we have a detective story, kind of, and we're not going to talk spoilers, but if you saw it, you'll probably understand our frustration with it. It's an interesting show that ends up not working.
Mm.
We'll talk about why it doesn't work for us, but a detective is investigating a murder, and um, she partners up with a nun who is writing this column for the church, and they're sending her out there because the church isn't getting the uh, attention that they want it to. So they try to sensationalize their paper to get people to read it and ultimately come to the church. Real sneaky ass move.
Mm-hmm.
And so she goes out there and she's like the most, um, you know, anti-nun type character for sure. She
Yeah.
acts nothing like a nun in this whole show. Um, but yeah, our main character is investigating. She has her as her little sidekick, and
Yeah.
they're going into this. So first thing to say here, and you can take this as a spoiler if you want. I mean, it is what it is. But the show takes a drastic like U-turn around the seventh episode,
Mm-hmm.
which out of 10 episodes is a really bizarre place to put it. I think that had they did this head fake earlier, even as early as 5 episodes, if we could have hit the halfway point, because this is a Ryan Murphy show, right? This is kind of almost like an alternate American Horror Story season.
Mm.
I mean, this could be an American Horror Story season. It would fit right in with the show. But this isn't completely abnormal for Ryan Murphy because we did this with Roanoke, where they were going one way with the story for quite a few episodes, and then near the end, they totally changed everything and it flipped it on its head. And while I'm usually the guy that's all for um, wild and crazy swings,
Mm-hmm.
man, it's just the journey there I
Yeah.
wasn't invested in. So maybe if I was really vibing with it and they were to subvert expectations, I might have been one of the people on board, as to where most people aren't. So I always respect shows or movies for subverting expectations. The Halloween Ends, the
Yeah.
Last Jedi's, whatever. I love that kind of shit. I'm like, hell yeah, give me that. But with this show, I have to enjoy the lead up to it. I have to be somewhat interested in it, and it has to feel like there's a payoff. Now, to be fair, we thought this was going to be a one season,
We
one
did.
one little
We
like
thought it was like a
limited
single,
series.
yeah. We don't know why we thought that. Well, we do. It's because of
The
how
American
American
Horror
Horror Story,
Story. Yeah.
but we did this for both uh this show, Grotesquerie, and also Teacup, we like, for some reason with both of them, we're like, these are single season shows.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is definitely going to have, or at least is set up to have, additional seasons. So the story is not complete at all. We had talked about, like, typically this should be a show that should work really well for me. I'm a really big fan of surrealism in horror, and the show has so much surrealism in it, but it didn't work for me either. I, in fact, was always like dreading watching this show whenever we would, like, sit down to watch it. I would just kind of like have to grit my teeth through every episode. And like, we talked about it at length before. I think a big part of it is because there is such a clear, like, everything's surreal. There's a lot of symbolism and a lot of metaphors, but they're all like very heavy-handed. It's all there with the intention of, like, a message that's being told, versus, like, when we were comparing it, when we talked previously, to something like a David Lynch work, where that seems to work really well for me and for a lot of people, because Lynch kind of like lays out all these cool symbols and like visuals and different things, but then lets the viewer come to their own conclusions about what they might mean. He doesn't give any answers to, like, this is what I was trying to say and this is what that meant. Like, it is just up to interpretation, which is what makes it so great, because there's so much to interpret. Whereas I think with this show, it has a very clear, like, this is what this means and this is like what the point of it is. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just, for me, I don't like that style, because I would rather just have it be more like cut and dry, I guess,
Yeah.
than like trying to pretend to be like surreal and ambiguous when it's just not, at all.
Yeah.
You had also mentioned when we talked before, like, if this, sudden change had happened in like episode 3 instead of closer to the end, that might have worked a little bit better. And I think I agree with you as well. Although, as I just said, knowing that this story isn't complete at the end of this season, like, there is still like a chance for the full story to maybe make more sense and like connect better. Um, because yeah, there's just, it's such a giant change at the end, and there's a lot of really intense stuff that happens at the end too. So it was kind of a lot to process, I guess,
Yeah.
as far as the show goes. Like, you're just so into, or we're not that we were really into, but when there's like a crime investigation happening, like, that's kind of what you're following. And I don't know, I think that the show is maybe trying to be a little smarter than it is as well. Like, I wouldn't call it pretentious at all, but I could see people using that word.
That's super typical for Ryan
So
Murphy.
yeah.
It always feels like it's taking these big intellectual swings, but it feels pretty vapid at times. The big main issue with with the show is our main character is one of the most unlikable people imaginable, and it's not in a relatable way, right? Like, there's antagonists that are either anti-heroes, or they're um a very flawed
Mm,
individual who we follow, and it's more of an antagonistic approach to storytelling, like Joker or whatever, right? um but our main character is just so abrasive, and she's so preachy, and I feel like for her character to work, I have to have, even in my most like nihilistic, darkest moments, I have to feel connected to what she's saying, because that's the way she's coming off. It's like, I'm telling it how it is, and and it's just, it feels so in your face,
mm,
and I find her to be so grating
mm.
to watch, and I think her performance is good.
Oh yeah, she
So
gives a
there's
great
there's nothing
performance.
wrong with her, the actress.
Yeah.
I just think her character is so unlikable, but not in an interesting way. She's such a shitty person, and she feels like the villain that you want catharsis from, for like
Mm,
the main protagonist to finally overcome. She feels like we're following that character throughout, because the way she treats her kid, the way she
mm.
treats her husband, the way she treats everyone around her, she's just so fucking monstrous.
To be clear, too, I don't think anybody in the show is very likable or relatable. Um, and one thing that I think
I like the nun. Okay.
does apply is that none of these characters are really three dimensional. They're not one dimensional, but
Yeah.
they're very, especially with where things go at the end, like they're representative, they're archetypes,
They're
they're
stand-ins.
stand-ins for like different emotional states or
Yeah.
different like concepts.
Mhm.
So I do think that's a lot of what's going on with her character, because for most of the season, she is that she's very abrasive and like you have a hard time like really kind of getting in with her. But even at the end, like I think both versions that we see of her are the archetypal versions. They're the symbolic, yeah, symbolic like representation of other things. So there's that, and I think that's the case for every character as well. I think they all have like some symbol or metaphor that they represent. Which, like in concept, I think this is cool. Like, there's a lot of things conceptually in the show that I feel like I like when I think about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that's a neat concept, and I think that would be fun to explore. But I do think that it's not successfully done, in my opinion. Um, One thing, there's a couple things actually that I did like about the show. The first being like visuals in it, as far as like the aesthetic and how things look.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. There's a lot of really neat lighting and like kind of neon lighting and liminal spaces and like just dreamlike settings that I think are really cool. And then I know we both really like the crime scenes. Some very, very creative crime scenes that are reminiscent of something like Hannibal, uh, as far as how they look and how graphic they are.
Yeah.
So that's very nice that we get that in here as well. I don't know. Yeah, I am curious about like the rest of the story,
Yeah.
just because I want to understand more.
Yeah.
But I could see so many people really disliking this. I think people will find it very preachy. And it's, we talked about it in our lost video that we did. I It's not that I don't agree with a lot of the concepts that are being talked about, like, or anything, but I also find it to be very like down your throat, so to speak. Which, I mean, hey, every people are allowed to make stuff like that for sure.
Sure. Yeah, I
But
mean
it's just,
the show's very like women rah rah rah, men are garbage. The last episode is so heavy handed with it, and this is 100% Ryan Murphy's attempt at being David Lynch. There's no doubt
mm,
about it, especially with that last episode. The guy in the wheelchair reminds me of something like Lynch would do, and I I found the last episode, like, because we thought it was gonna be the last
we
last
were like
episode,
so
they
confused.
were kind of looking like they were gonna wrap certain things up, but like
Yeah.
we're 25 minutes into a 50-minute episode. That's the finale, and we haven't even really touched our main character, and we have completely abandoned by this point, because at episode 7, where we take the U-turn, we just abandon the main plot line completely, and you're like, so all the pieces that I was trying to put together, the investigation side of things, we're just done with that. we're
Yeah.
we're, we're over it. And then they kind of try to sort of slightly bring it back in, but in a different way. And you're like, okay, I guess, but I'm not interested now, because you led me down this road where I'm trying to pay attention to one thing, and then you just like bait and switch it. And now I'm kind of sitting here and I'm like, 25 minutes into the final episode of the season, which I should be fully hooked, right? Like your finale, your final episode of a season is your big episode, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing that leaves people wanting more, right? And to compare this to something that we love, right? That really hooked us, probably the most hooked I've maybe ever been on a season finale, where I was so invested, I was literally like, hyperventilating and yelling at the screen, like, "Oh my god, what's gonna happen? Hurry up!" Is the finale of Severance
Yeah.
season one. I was
Yeah, that
like,
was
oh
intense.
my god, I was so
It
invested
was
because
so
the way
intense.
they walk you through that story, where it heads, where you get
Yeah.
to, oh my god, was I into it? Was
It
I
was
invested?
crazy.
And with this one, we're 20 something minutes into this last episode, and I'm like looking at Kaylee like, where are we now?
Yeah.
What is happening now from where
Yeah.
we started to where we are now? Is this a different show? Like, why are we here? What the fuck is this? What is this last episode? And that's reflective in the score, right? I went to IMDb just to kind of see like what's the consensus on this, and this in the last episode of the season has a 4.5, which makes perfect sense to me. And I don't care. Like, I'm usually the guy that defends the big swings and is like, you guys don't get it because you're blah blah blah, right? I don't try to be an elitist douchebag at it or anything. It's just I'm totally fine with subversion of expectations,
Yeah.
rug pulls. Like, I don't care as long as it works and it
Hmm.
feels like it was purposeful and thought out, as to where with anything Ryan Murphy does, I always feel like they write it naturally and just let it flow, and then he's always telling the writers to like push the envelope,
Mm.
pull the rug, do something. It's always got to outdo the last episode. This is why American Horror Story seasons almost always fall apart in the end, because he's always trying to one up the last episode, to be edgy, to be racy. Like the way she talks, the way the characters interact, it's all reality adjacent. It's all
Oh
super
yes,
over the
very
top.
very reality adjacent.
Everybody's is as abrasive and as excessive as they can be. Everything always has to be excessiveness. And when you have this relationship with the daughter where she's like, there's this addiction to food versus booze,
Yeah.
and you have all these things going on, and the husband is in a coma and this and that, and then you just completely take that out and you take characters. Now, we didn't even mention like Travis Kelsey or
Yeah.
or any of the other actors in this. They're all fine. Like,
Oh
everyone's
yeah.
good.
I think everyone's performance is good. It's not really an issue with like the performances. It's I guess mostly just the writing that is ends up being kind of confusing is all.
If you're
Cuz like the way it
wondering,
looks and the acting and everything
yeah,
is good.
if you're wondering if Travis Kelsey is like a cameo, no,
He's a
he's a
character
full-on main character of the
and
show.
he does fine.
Yeah,
He's not like and he's good. Like he was good.
yeah.
It's
If he
whenever
wasn't,
you see like a celebrity that's not normally an actor, you're always like expecting them to just be themselves, but he plays his character. And
yeah,
like
if
I
I
kind of
didn't know who he
forgot that
was,
he was yeah.
if I didn't know who he was, I wouldn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
I would just think he was another actor,
Yeah, he
right?
did a
He
fine
fits the
job.
show fine.
Yeah. Um yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of weird stuff that happens. I normally am like really into weird stuff and I was just kind of like, okay, I feel like that's just I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, I think that it has a really clear. I think if you watch it, you will totally understand when I like say that it has such a clear like message that it's going through
Mm-hmm.
and like I just think that comes across like very very much and it makes it like not as weird.
Yeah,
Cuz like if it, I want it to be like kind of absurd for it to be really weird and I don't feel like it is.
yeah,
But it is interesting. It is a lot more interesting than Teacup.
yeah.
That's definitely one thing. At least there's like the characters have stuff happening and they're memorable.
God, the characters in Teacup are dull.
Yeah,
So fucking dull.
yeah.
But I mean, we're only 2 episodes in currently. But Sweet Pea is fantastic.
So far, yes,
We
we really
started
love
we
that.
started it today.
Yep.
Well, there's only 6 episodes. They are all out currently if you live in like the UK. We have access to every episode, so hopefully we'll get that review up soon. I don't think the show is done here because it's airing like week to week, but we are going to get to that. That'll be our next show that we discuss, and then we'll get to Hysteria with Bruce
Yes.
Campbell after that. That'll be the next one. But yeah, this we got to this one. Typically we don't cover American Horror Story. I did cover some. I covered 1984 and Apocalypse episode by episode. So you can check those out episode by episode if you want to watch along with me and see my reactions to those Ryan Murphy things. But I did not cover anything else of American Horror Story, just those. Um, and Kaylee and I watched like
Of
two or
American
three
Horror
episodes.
Stories.
Yeah,
Yeah. We
which I
keep
don't think
meaning to get. I don't think we ever reviewed them.
we
Maybe we
might
did.
have. We might
We kept
have.
meaning to get back to it, but we just never did. And I haven't seen every episode or every
Oh
season
no.
of American Horror Story in general. Um, I don't know. I mean, it's something that's like, yeah, we could watch it, but we also have other stuff that we kind of would rather watch. So we're
The
not in
fact
a
that
rush
this
to it.
is the fact that this is gonna be multiple seasons makes perfect sense
Yeah,
because this would have been an American Horror Story season
yeah,
had it not been for the fact that he wants to do more than a season,
yeah.
and that wouldn't work
I
with the
mean, hey,
framework.
that could be good for him, right? Like that could be good for these kinds of stories is to have multiple seasons instead of trying to just wrap it up in one. Like maybe he needs more time. I don't know. I we'll see. We'll see if the next season comes out. I think that this could maybe not get renewed for sure, but
The only season that I've ever loved of any of these things that Ryan Murphy has created for the horror television landscape is Hotel season 5 of American Horror Story with Lady Gaga.
I
I
really
love
liked
that season.
the first season.
First
Uh
season's good.
I feel
It's
like it's pretty classic.
yeah, it's classic.
And then I also really loved Coven.
Yeah, the
So
Apocalypse is a sequel to Coven.
I never saw Apocalypse.
Hmm. Just so you know,
Yeah. What comes after Coven though? Is it
it's Freak
Apocalypse?
Show.
Oh, Freak Show. Okay, I was gonna say yeah.
Coven's
I
season
think
3.
Coven. I think I so yeah. I think I've only seen 4 seasons because
Hotel
I think I
season
stopped
5.
after Freak Show, and I don't even know if I finished all of Freak Show. But I liked Coven a lot because I like witches in general. So
Hmm.
anyway, yeah, I don't know. This was definitely it's a weird. It's not really a recommendation, but it's like a recommendation if you like American Horror Story, and
It,
if I mean I don't know we if you're into if you want to check it out, you should
it's a
check it out.
unique
It's
show.
unique and
Hmm.
it will definitely have you thinking and questioning stuff. So there's that.
One thing that surprised me is the opening credits are really dull and lame, and they're just kind
Yeah.
of like random, like just text images,
Yeah.
which is super unlike Ryan Murphy. He usually has killer opening credits. The I'd say the greatest thing about American Horror Story
Is
was its promotions,
mm,
right? The promotional material was like the coolest shit ever. Whoever made the promotional material stuff should be making the shows because that is like inventive, wildly creative, visually stunning stuff. And I'm always like, damn, it's always so enticing. I feel like the marketing is better than the
than the show.
show, and I feel like it's what kept it on the air because when people watch that marketing, they're like, I gotta watch this, even though I
Sure.
watched the last season and I hated
But
it.
it like doesn't
It's
live
like,
up to the
damn, maybe
marketing.
maybe this next season will be great because look at this marketing. It's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
So they hire some really cool, creative people to do their marketing.
Yeah.
And that's that. So anyway, that's that. We'll see you in the comments. Let us know if you watched it. And adios.
Bye.